Hi. So, I've been on a journey this past year. I took a trip to a town that seems innocent but has a whole lot more going on than I could have ever imagined. It was a town that I'd visited before, actually, several years ago, and I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy my stay the first time. But something changed. And now? Now I never want to leave. For the past year, I have been bedeviled, bewitched, and boy howdy, I've been beguiled. It all started when I was minding my business, scrolling the popular blogging site for freaks known as Tumblr.com. I came upon a GIF that depicted a scene that caught my interest. Now, I had seen a bit of what Riverdale had to offer before. I mean, come on, you tell me this smoke show is gay and there's something wrong with her? I'm in. But believe it or not, that wasn't enough for me my first go-round. I became disenchanted with the show about a quarter of the way through season 3. But this compelled me. How did we get here? Surely this is a dream sequence, I thought, but upon some cursory research, I discovered that it was not. This was, for all intents and purposes, happening in the show. I was seized with a desperate need for some context. And so, off I went. Originally, I had watched about 2.5 seasons of the show before giving up and declaring that it was time to take it out behind the barn and shoot it. It was bad, right? I mean, Riverdale was stupid, right? There was nothing of value to glean from its poorly written plots and overly saccharine CW-flavored teeny bopper bullshit. And as I sat there watching the rest of season 3 and then 4, I was starting to see why I'd left the show behind. What a mess, right? I mean, calling it convoluted was understating it, really. I mean, these are some of the worst mysteries I've ever seen. I continued watching it out of spite just to see how stupid it would get. And then the time skip of season 5 rolled around and something started to shift. I found myself starting to let my guard down and even cautiously enjoying it, but no! Riverdale is bad and I am a creature of culture. I went to art school and I have a copy of Infinite Jest on my bedside table. Surely I'm better than this, right? I clung desperately to my carefully curated sensibilities about what good art could and could not be with every passing episode. I was not allowed to enjoy this. It was nothing more than a scholarly expedition to pass the time and sate my curiosity. I'd done my time with bad TV shows, and my heart couldn't take another blow like that. But there was just something about Riverdale that was starting to pierce my defenses. And like a frog boiling alive, I did not realize that it was already far too late. It was in my head. I couldn't stop. I was addicted to the unerring chaos of its narrative. I was trapped, yet still desperate to escape with my sanity intact.
I don't understand. Why are you all smiling? What is this about?
You.
Saber.
It's about getting you to this crossroads.
Join us.
Join us.
Everyone you know. Everyone in your life is here in this room. Join us.
Cheryl.
Is here.
Cheryl.
Is here. Your best friend
Cheryl.
is here.
Gay
Is
Cheryl.
here.
Cheryl fucking Blossom.
Is here.
Riverdale is not great art. It can't be, right? I mean, it's just Archie fan fiction with a particular focus on thirst trapping anyone who might cast at a glance. To even consider that Riverdale might be great art calls into question my sanity, not to mention my credibility as a writer and artist. To place it among my influences beside Chuck Palahniuk or Virginia Woolf feels almost sacrilegious. But let me be clear about something. My obsession with Riverdale goes far beyond the realms of, oh, I'm just here for fun. I am not here for fun. I am studying it with the same fervor, perhaps more even, that I tackled the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle with. I am enraptured. It's hard to even say that this is just a thirst watch gone awry. I mean, surely I'm more noble than that. I'm sure some people relish the schadenfreude of watching this ship go down, but not me. Though I laugh often, it's not in mockery. It's an affectionate, flirtatious giggle, if anything. Oh, Riverdale, you're so funny. Tell me about the time Cheryl and Veronica waterboarded Penelope with maple syrup again. The longer I stare at it, the more I understand the cultists of eldritch deities worshipping at the altar of a being they could never hope to comprehend and is definitely driving them more insane by the second. I can no longer hear the pleas of my loved ones desperately trying to get me to watch a good show. I no longer care about good shows. There is only Riverdale. Now, all joking aside, at this point I may not understand my own motivations, but what I do know is that I am motivated. Motivated to understand and also to explain. I've tried explaining this show to my friends, family members, coworkers, and my dog, if only to reassure them that though I am watching a questionable teen drama for the 10th time, that I am fine and there is nothing to worry about. And yet, every explanation thus far has always felt as though it is missing something, a certain je ne sais quoi that makes Riverdale feel essential and important. So, over the past few months, I've looked at Riverdale through many lenses in an attempt to penetrate its madness. I've looked at expressionism, absurdism, Brechtian theater. Is it a tragedy, a comedy? Is this contemporary Dadaism, postmodernism? Where does Gothic romance fit? Satire, comic, books? Yes, no, maybe. It's too many things. It's too much. It's impossible. But wait. There is another lens, a rosy lens that takes certain passionate failures and raises them from the muck of irrelevance, a romantic lens through which water becomes wine.
Hooray!
I had never really studied camp, though I've always been a fan of things like Mommy Dearest and John Waters. I mean, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane is one of my favorite movies of all time. But I had no understanding of why or even what I was really experiencing. Appreciating camp just came naturally to me. I had never stopped to ask why. So I started with the quintessential literature on the topic, Susan Sontag's Notes on Camp. Despite it being about essentially enjoying art with reckless abandon, it's not the easiest series of notes to digest. But I've been training for this. So this is my understanding. Camp is, above all, a relationship to the work. It's not a style or a genre, it's a method of art appreciation. It's a philosophy. It is an open rejection of received wisdom, obviousness, and stereotype. Camp assumes nothing but searches for what might be, usually to hysterical effect. Camp is a discussion about possibility because when we ask, is this allowed in the context of good taste, camp says, who cares? Camp is a question about what we're allowed to love, and the answer is yes. And the quality of the inquiry is generous, it's joyful and loving, and it has to be. As soon as we bring judgment into the equation, camp gets skittish and heads out. To experience camp, you must take a leap of faith into the unknown. You have to push aside the things you've been told all your life about what art is supposed to be, as well as what the art itself is telling you that it is. As Susan Sontag would put it in her notes, behind the straight public sense in which something can be taken, one has found a private, zany experience of the thing. There is an inherent celebration in camp, a hedonism that cannot be tempered by the reasonable. It's unreasonable, it's unbelievable, it's just too much. Even when camp is glamorous, it is never in step with the mainstream sensibility of the time. It's cringe and it's free, but it is indeed sincere. And we find our way to true camp through the diligent search for nuance. There is a series of great articles by J. Brian Lauder called Postcards from Camp that I highly recommend. Lauder describes the search for nuance as a trip through a secret passageway out of the system into a freer space of aesthetic engagement defined wholly by the eccentricities and proclivities of the reader, watcher, etc. Now, enjoying the obviousness of the work does make the search for nuance more enjoyable. That is to say, I recognize that Riverdale's surface-level presentation of Gothic and horror tropes appeals to me and invites me openly to discover the subtle interpretations of its many details. Without that, I wouldn't bother to look for the nuance. This is why I've never been obsessed with other contemporary camp examples like Glee. Now, Lauder posits that camp is not the nuance itself, but the pleasure that seizing upon the nuance evokes. Camp is not necessarily the campy, but the pleasure of finding subtle, obscure appreciations of that which society has deemed useless. It's the appreciation of the oddity, the ultimate inside joke. Susan Sontag says, camp taste is, above all, a mode of enjoyment, of appreciation, not judgment. Camp is generous. It wants to enjoy. What it does is to find the success in certain passionate failures. Camp taste is a kind of love, love for human nature. It relishes rather than judges the little triumphs and awkward intensities of character. Camp is a tender feeling. Camp taste nourishes itself on the love that has gone into certain objects and personal styles. Riverdale is camp, or rather, it is the perfect playground for camp. And thus, to dismiss it as simple bad television is to miss out on a wealth of interpretive goodness that lies beyond its surface. You just have to spot your white rabbit, and off to Wonderland you'll go. If only it were that simple. Camp has a dreamlike nature, which is part of what makes it so hard to talk about. It's a sensibility, and that means that it's not as concrete or clear as an idea. Not only that, but it's not a natural sensibility. That is to say, to arrive at camp taste, one must understand good taste and then choose to ignore it in favor of personal aesthetic values. But what is good taste, anyway? According to Pierre Bourdieu, the concept of good taste is just one more way the ruling class controls the rabble. It's a mark of superiority that says, "Look at me, I'm so smart and cultured, and you're not." Now, our society is not as clearly divided into the classy rich and the uncouth poor as his might have been, at least artistically. That is to say, anyone can have good or bad taste regardless of their social standing. Taste these days seems to be dictated by small, niche influencers rather than one singular ruling class. I mean, think about it. On any given day, where do you learn about what good and bad is when it comes to art? Probably social media, and your social media feed is going to be made up of whoever you've chosen to follow. So, your social feed is pretty unique to you and might even be made up of both famous and local voices. Both are treated with the same amount of importance as you scroll. It's not like people with more followers have bigger posts or longer videos. It's a relatively even playground so long as you know how to curate it. And what that means for taste is that it has the potential to become incredibly niche in a way that was not possible in the past. Therefore, my entire idea of good taste can be built from an infinite number of sources and styles that you have no reference for. So what is good taste? Does it mean anything in today's infinite landscape of artistic expression? One might posit that good taste and bad taste are meaningless beyond a personal definition. Andre Aciman said, "Taste is not a democracy. Not everyone has it, but all of us are persuaded that we have it, and that others do not. There is no standard of taste, there are no rules, and our philosophers cannot agree. This is an anarchy, and that's that." So, what does that mean for art? For Riverdale? For my own aesthetics? Is all art truly subjective after all? Even now, I still don't really believe that. There are ways we can identify quality when it comes to art. Some people use popularity, some use technique. For me, it's about effectiveness. Did the art achieve what it set out to do, whether that be to frighten or entertain or devastate? And this standard, let it be known, is separate from whether or not one personally likes the art. I mean, I think it's indisputable that The Office is a good comedy, but you won't catch me giving a single fuck at any time. So, what about Riverdale? Well, I'll be honest, I have no idea. Mainly because I have no idea what Riverdale is trying to accomplish, at least not in the overarching sense. I don't think this can be answered until the final episode airs, and let me tell you, I will be paying close attention. But that being said, looking at Riverdale from season to season, I think it usually doesn't achieve what it sets out to achieve. This show was originally positioned as a mystery, and that's probably why I hated it so much the first time I watched it, because Riverdale has terrible mysteries. And let me tell you why. A good mystery is organized. It's clean and precise. The clues are all there from the beginning, and listening to the story is a race against the author's cleverness. Read Murder on the Orient Express, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Do not watch the movie, deadass, no cap, wretched evil film that ruins the integrity of its source material, and I'm still mad about it. But anyway, Riverdale's mysteries are messy and poorly laid. They're convoluted to the point of incoherence, and the reveals are either so obvious they're not impressive, or so clearly made up on the spot that they're deeply unsatisfying. I don't think it's a particularly devastating melodrama either, nor a swoon-worthy romance. Honestly, at the end of the day, my biggest conclusion about Riverdale is that it is the artistic equivalent of cloud gazing. It's everything and nothing at the same time, and what you see in it is a reflection of your own ideas, your own sensibilities, and yourself. Riverdale is a Rorschach ink blot. It's incohesive to the point of being actual nonsense. It's a garbled word salad of a show. With so many details and vibes and references, it's impossible, perhaps, to truly make sense of it in any way beyond the personal. At least for now. Perhaps when the final season airs, it will all make sense. I doubt it, but hey, anything is possible with Riverdale. So, does that mean that Riverdale is bad? It sure sounds like it, and by definition, to be camp, it has to be, right? Not to mention the fact that the internet seems to agree that it is. I'll be honest with you. I no longer care. And the only reason I'm even bringing this up is because it's one of the first questions we ask when someone talks about a show. Have you seen insert movie or show here? Is it good? I really think this question is missing the point. And maybe that's because I have terrible taste, or maybe I'm just weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in and I don't want to fit in, as the saying goes. But Riverdale, in all its wondrous madness, has inspired something in me. Something undeniable. And I think the huge response I had to this show is irrelevant to its quality. I think the inspiration I walked away with is simply more important. Listen, I was guilty of writing it off as just bad television several years ago, and if I hadn't returned to it, I would have robbed myself of something truly magical. I was trained extensively as a performing artist, and because of that, I had very specific ideas about what good and bad were when it came to art, what was worthy of my time and attention and what wasn't. But this gorgeous clusterfuck has delighted and challenged me more than anything I can think of in recent memory. I mean, I considered myself someone with sophisticated tastes, someone who only spends time with brilliant artworks. I mean, again, infinite jest, bedside table, but that's the thing, isn't it? Riverdale didn't match up with the kind of art I thought I was supposed to be engaging with. It went against my carefully constructed art snob persona. So much so that I became obsessed with figuring it out so I could justify why I was so into it. But at the end of the day, I was just scared. Scared I was losing my touch, or my mind, or both. I was scared I was become cringe and that my own art would become tainted too. I mean, how could I love both Riverdale and Shakespeare? How can both be true? Was my more sophisticated taste just an act to impress? After all, I haven't actually read Infinite Jest. It just sits there on my bedside table. But then again, I do genuinely love literature, and I watch opera for fun. So what is the truth? Who is the real me? The highly trained sophisticate or the cringe-core fanfiction lover? Or was I only clinging to Riverdale because everyone else hated it, and I desperately need to be different, lest I accidentally conform? Truly? I think they're all me, at the same time. What can I say, Archie? I contain multitudes. I gazed into the abyss of Riverdale, and it showed me greater possibility for who I am as opposed to who I thought I wanted to be. It saved me from myself, because I let myself connect to it. Kazuo Ishiguro said in his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, "But in the end, stories are about one person saying to another, 'This is the way it feels to me. Can you understand what I'm saying? Does it feel this way to you?'" In a world of desperate TikTok ads and discourse and corporate dystopia and the brands to lovers pipeline, yeah, Riverdale's incoherent feast of mad vibes definitely speaks to me. But it's more than that. It's Archie's simple struggles and Jughead's weirdo speech. It's Veronica's enterprising sensibilities and Betty's dogged determination to thwart evil without losing herself along the way. God, it's Cheryl Blossom. All of her. The tragic sincerity of her. The ridiculousness of her. The endless struggle between the unerring divine and the unforgivably human. Now, do I think you're going to have this experience with Riverdale? Maybe, maybe not, but I can almost guarantee that you have your own Riverdale somewhere out there. Something that you really want to enjoy that you feel you can't because it's cringe. Well, I think you should find what speaks to you, and I think you should listen, because that conversation is truly what art is all about. Next time on Secrets and Sins, our hero deconstructs then reconstructs Riverdale's narrative because they are a very brave little bat, with special focus on Riverdale's most important madwoman, Cheryl Blossom. So stay tuned and don't forget to write. Toodles.